The dismissed voice, when silence speaks louder than words. The crystalline chamber of the Galactic Defense Council stretched high above the assembled delegates, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that responded to the emotional states of the gathered species. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the edge of the circular platform, her dark uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by her alien counterparts. She was the only human in a room of 12 species, each representing billions of lives across the galaxy. The Council of Many Voices, Admiral Korthak of the Hegemony Prime, dominated the center of the assembly. His massive frame, covered in chitinous plates that gleamed like polished obsidian, moved with surprising grace as he gestured toward the holographic display. His forearms worked in synchronized movements, manipulating tactical projections, while his compound eyes tracked multiple data streams simultaneously. "The Zephyrian Empire grows bolder," Korthak announced, his voice resonating through multiple vocal chambers to create a harmonic that made the chamber walls shimmer. "Their raids have increased by 40% in the outer rim sectors. They test our resolve." Beside him, Ambassador Threnx of the Aquarian Collective undulated gently, her translucent form shifting through shades of blue and violet. When she spoke, her words came as melodic tones that the universal translators converted to standard galactic. "Our intelligence networks suggest they are massing for a significant offensive. The question remains where and when." Elena shifted slightly, her hands clasped behind her back. She had spent weeks analyzing Zephyrian attack patterns, studying their tactical preferences, identifying weaknesses in their command structure. The data painted a clear picture, but she knew from experience that her insights would be met with polite dismissal at best. The weight of prejudice, General Vox of the Titanium Brotherhood, his metallic exoskeleton glinting under the chamber's organic lighting, turned his optical sensors toward Elena. "Commander Vasquez, your species has been part of this alliance for 50 standard cycles? Perhaps you have observations from your limited experience." The condescension in his translated words was unmistakable. Elena had heard variations of this dismissal countless times. Humans were the newcomers, the junior species, the ones who had barely mastered faster than light travel when the other races had been exploring the galaxy for millennia. The Zephyrians favor psychological warfare over direct confrontation, Elena began, stepping forward to address the assembly. Their recent raids aren't random acts of aggression. They're probing responses, measuring reaction times, identifying command hierarchies. Every attack is a learning experience for them. Fleet Commander Xylix of the Stellar Monarchy, her serpentine form coiled around a gravity anchor, raised her crested head. "All species gather intelligence, human. This observation lacks tactical value." Elena's jaw tightened slightly, but her voice remained steady. "They're not just gathering intelligence, they're conditioning us. Each raid follows a specific pattern that's designed to make us predictable. They want us to respond with overwhelming force to minor provocations, exhausting our resources and revealing our strategic preferences." The pattern they refused to see, the holographic display shifted, showing the galaxy's outer rim where Zephyrian activity had intensified. Elena watched as the assembled commanders studied the data, seeing what they expected to see rather than what was actually there. "Look at the timing," Elena continued, highlighting specific attacks with a gesture toward the display. "Every major raid occurs exactly 72 hours after our patrol schedules are updated. They're not just monitoring our communications, they're predicting our behavioral patterns." Ambassador Council Leader Zerath of the Ancient Order, whose crystalline form pulsed with soft light, spoke in tones that suggested profound patience. "Young Commander, the Zephyrians are a known quantity. We have fought them for 3 centuries. Their tactics are documented, their capabilities understood. With respect, Ancient One, Elena replied, our documentation is 3 centuries out. Of date, species evolve, tactics adapt. The Zephyrians we're facing now aren't the same ones your predecessors defeated before my species had even developed written language. A ripple of dismissive sounds moved through the assembly. Korthax. Mandibles clicked in what Elena recognized as irritation. The human perspective is noted, he said with finality. However, experience guides wisdom. We will proceed with proven strategies against a known enemy, the plan that ignored reality. The tactical briefing that followed revealed everything Elena had feared. The Galactic Defense Council's strategy was a monument to past glories, a textbook approach that assumed the enemy would behave exactly as they had centuries ago. 3 massive fleets would converge on suspected Zephyrian staging areas, overwhelming them with superior firepower and advanced technology. Elena watched in growing concern as the plan unfolded. The attack vectors were precisely what the Zephyrian raids had been conditioning them to choose. The timing played directly into enemy hands. The resource allocation left critical sectors vulnerable to exactly the kind of diversionary tactics the Zephyrians favored. The staging areas you've identified, Elena interjected during a brief pause in the presentation, they're too obvious. The Zephyrians want us to find them. They're baiting us into a predetermined response. General Vox's optical sensors whirred as they focused on her. Commander, your species' paranoia is noted. However, multiple intelligence sources confirm these locations. We do not base strategies on human intuition. It's not intuition, Elena said firmly. It's pattern recognition. The Zephyrians have been training us to see what they want us to see. These staging areas serve their purpose, not ours. The Shadow Network has. The council session concluded with final approvals for the massive military operation. Elena remained behind. The crystalline chamber dimmed as the other delegates departed, leaving her alone with her growing certainty that they were walking into a carefully prepared trap. She activated her personal communicator, establishing an encrypted connection to the human fleet commanders scattered throughout the galaxy. Captain Marcus Chen appeared first on the holographic display, his weathered face showing the strain of commanding deep space patrols in the outer systems. Elena, he said quietly, please tell me the council listened to reason. They listened. Elena replied with bitter precision, but they didn't hear. They're proceeding with Operation Thunderstrike in 48 hours. 3 fleets, exactly where the Zephyrians want them. Admiral Sarah Okafor's image joined the conference, her dark eyes reflecting years of tactical experience. The pattern analysis you shared last week was conclusive. The Zephyrians have been orchestrating our responses for months. Elena nodded grimly. I need you to position your fleets for contingency operations. Maintain standard patrol patterns, but be ready to respond to what's actually going to happen, not what the Council expects to happen. The quiet preparation over the next 36 hours, Eleanor coordinated a shadow network of human commanders throughout the galaxy. Unlike the massive alien fleets preparing for glorious battle, human forces remained dispersed, flexible, ready to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. The Zephyrians had made one critical miscalculation in their psychological manipulation campaign. They had studied the major alien species for centuries, understanding their hierarchical command structures, their predictable tactical doctrines, their inflexible strategic thinking. But humans were new to the galactic stage, and their military philosophy was fundamentally different. Where alien forces relied on overwhelming technological superiority and rigid tactical formations, humans emphasized adaptability, creative problem-solving, and decentralized command structures. Elena's network could respond to threats in minutes rather than hours, adjust strategies in real time rather than following predetermined plans. The First Blood. The opening phase of Operation Thunderstrike proceeded exactly as the Galactic Defense Council had planned. 3 massive fleets, representing the combined military might of 11 species, converged on the suspected Zephyrian staging areas with overwhelming force. Their arrival was coordinated to the minute, their attack patterns textbook perfect, their confidence absolute. Elena watched from the bridge of the human command vessel Defiance as the operation unfolded. The initial reports were encouraging. The alien fleets had achieved complete surprise, overwhelming the Zephyrian positions with minimal resistance. It was exactly what the Council had expected, and exactly what Elena feared most. Admiral, her communications officer, reported, "We're receiving victory confirmations from all 3 fleets. Admiral Korthak reports the Zephyrian forces were caught completely off guard." Elena's expression remained grim. "That's not victory. That's bait being taken." The truth revealed itself 18 hours later, while the alien fleet celebrated their swift triumph over abandoned Zephyrian outposts. The real enemy forces struck where they were least expected. Simultaneous attacks erupted across 12 different sectors, each targeting critical infrastructure, supply lines, and civilian populations. The Zephyrians hadn't been caught off guard. They had orchestrated the entire sequence of events, using the alien fleet's predictable responses to strip away their defensive capabilities at precisely the right moment. The victory celebrations turned to desperate calls for reinforcement as the true scope of the Zephyrian strategy became clear. Elena stood on the bridge of Defiance, watching as distress signals flooded the communication networks. The stars themselves seemed to pulse with the light of distant battles as the galaxy burned, according to a plan the Galactic Defense Council had helped to write through their own arrogance. "Now," Elena said quietly to her assembled commanders, "we show them what happens when you dismiss the quiet voice in the room." The human fleets moved with surgical precision through the chaos, responding not to the crisis the aliens had expected, but to the one Elena had prepared them to face. The real battle was about to begin, and for the first time in the war, the Zephyrians were about to encounter an enemy they hadn't spent centuries learning to predict. When blood paints the stars, the price of arrogance. The command center aboard, the hegemony flagship Dominion, had transformed from a place of celebration into a chamber of barely contained panic. Admiral Korthak's forearms moved frantically across multiple control interfaces as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Each new transmission brought worse news than the last. "The unraveling Sector 7 is completely dark," reported Lieutenant Vask, her Aquarian features shifting through rapid color changes that indicated extreme stress. "We've lost contact with 15 colonies and 3 major shipyards." General Vox's metallic form stood rigid at the tactical display, his optical sensors processing incoming data streams with mechanical precision. "The Zephyrians are hitting infrastructure targets with surgical accuracy. They know exactly where to strike for maximum disruption." Fleet Commander Xylix uncoiled from her gravity anchor, her serpentine movements agitated and unpredictable. "How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated their main forces were concentrated in the staging areas we destroyed." Korthak's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "Those weren't staging areas. They were decoys. Empty shells designed to draw our forces away from the real targets." The holographic display showed the galaxy painted in red warning indicators. Zephyrian strike forces had emerged from hidden positions throughout the outer rim, their attacks coordinated with devastating precision. Every target had been chosen to maximize psychological impact, while crippling the Alliance's ability to mount an effective counterattack. The pattern revealed Ambassador Zerath's crystalline form, pulsed with rapid light patterns as he analyzed. The unfolding disaster. The coordination required for this operation would take years of preparation. They have been planning this campaign since before the raids began. The raids, General Vox said with mechanical precision, were never about gathering resources or testing defenses. They were conditioning exercises, training us to respond in predictable patterns. The realization hit the assembled commanders like a physical blow. Every tactical decision, every strategic response, every deployment order had been anticipated and accounted for in the Zephyrian master plan. They had been manipulated at the most fundamental level, their own expertise turned against them. Fleet Commander Xylix raised her crested head, her optical organs dilating as she accessed secure communication channels. Our 3 main fleets are 7 hours away from the nearest crisis zone. The Zephyrians timed their attacks to ensure our most powerful forces would be out of position. We need to recall the fleets immediately, Korthak declared, his harmonic voice carrying desperate authority. Concentrate our forces for a coordinated counterattack. That's exactly what they want us to do, a quiet voice said from the chamber's periphery. The voice. They should have heard Commander Elena Vasquez stepped forward from where she had been monitoring communications from the human fleet. Her dark uniform seemed to absorb the chamber's bioluminescent light as she approached the central display. The alien commanders turned toward her with expressions that ranged from surprise to irritation. "Commander," Korthak said with strained patience, "this is not the time for human theories. We need decisive action." Elena's expression remained calm despite the chaos surrounding her. "Decisive action is exactly what got us into this situation. The Zephyrians have spent months conditioning your responses. They know exactly how you'll react to this crisis." She gestured toward the tactical display, her movements precise and controlled. "Look at the attack pattern. They're not trying to hold territory or capture resources. They're creating a psychological pressure designed to force you into another predictable response." General Vox's optical sensors focused on Elena with mechanical intensity. "What do you propose? That we do nothing while the galaxy burns?" "I propose we stop playing their game," Elena replied firmly. "Every major alien species fights the same way. Overwhelming force, centralized command, predictable tactical doctrines. The Zephyrians have studied you for centuries. They know exactly. How do you think?" The human advantage Admiral Sarah Okafor's image appeared on the communication display, her weathered features showing the calm composure of someone who had spent decades in combat situations. "Elena, we're in position, all human. Fleets are reporting ready status." The alien commanders stared at the display in confusion. Admiral Korthak's compound eyes shifted between multiple focal points as he processed this unexpected development. "Position for what?" "The human fleets were assigned to patrol sectors 7 through 12. Elena smiled grimly. "Where they've been intercepting Zephyrian infiltration teams for the past 6 hours. While you were celebrating victory over empty outposts, we were fighting the real enemy." Captain Marcus Chen's image joined the conference, his scarred face bearing the marks of recent combat. "We've neutralized 17 infiltration attempts in the core systems. The Zephyrians were planning to hit the central communication hubs once their main offensive began." The revelation sent a ripple of shock through the alien commanders. Elena had not only predicted the enemy strategy, she had positioned human forces to counter it while the alien fleets were being led away from the real battle. Fleet Commander Xylix uncoiled further, her movements becoming more agitated. "You acted without authorization, without coordination with the Central Command." "I acted without permission," Elena corrected. "There's a difference. Your Central Command was compromised the moment you decided to follow Zephyrian manipulation instead of human analysis. the counter-strategy. Elena approached the tactical display, her hands moving with practiced efficiency as she overlaid new data onto the existing projections. The galaxy map transformed, showing not just the current crisis, but the underlying strategic pattern that the alien commanders had missed. The Zephyrians made one critical miscalculation, Elena explained as the display updated. They studied your species for centuries, but humans have only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. Their psychological profiles don't account for human tactical flexibility. The display showed human fleet positions scattered throughout the galaxy, each one positioned not according to traditional military doctrine, but according to Elena's analysis of actual Zephyrian intentions, where alien forces had concentrated for maximum firepower. Human forces had dispersed for maximum coverage. Admiral Okafor's voice carried quiet confidence as she reported the situation. We've identified the real Zephyrian command vessels. They're using the chaos as cover to advance on core systems while your main fleets are out of position. Elena highlighted specific sectors on the display. The attacks you're seeing aren't the real offensive. They're a distraction designed to keep your attention focused on peripheral damage, while the main force moves on strategic targets. The tide turns, Captain. Chen's image flickered as his ship engaged enemy forces in the outer system. Contact with Zephyrian battle group, 3 heavy cruisers and support vessels. They weren't expecting resistance in this sector. The battle reports that followed painted a very different picture from the disaster that had befallen the alien fleets. Human forces, operating with tactical flexibility and real-time intelligence, were systematically dismantling the Zephyrian offensive that the aliens had never seen coming. Elena watched the tactical display as human fleets engaged the enemy across multiple sectors. Unlike the massive alien formations that required hours to coordinate movements, human forces adapted their strategies in real time, responding to changing circumstances with a speed that caught the Zephyrians completely off. "Guard! Impossible," General Vox stated with mechanical precision. "Our tactical analysis indicated Zephyrian forces outnumbered human fleets by significant margins." Elena nodded calmly. "They do outnumber us, but they planned their strategy around fighting alien forces, not human ones. They expected predictable responses, centralized command structures, and inflexible tactical doctrines." Admiral Korthak's mandibles clicked as he processed this information. What are human tactical doctrines? "Adaptability," Elena replied simply. "We don't fight the war the enemy expects. We fight the war that wins." The price of dismissal, the communication. Display updated with reports from across the galaxy. Admiral Okafor's face showed satisfaction as she delivered the news. Zephyrian command vessel confirmed destroyed. Their coordination network is collapsing. Captain Chen appeared briefly between combat operations. Enemy forces are withdrawing from multiple sectors. They're not equipped to handle distributed resistance. Elena turned to face the assembled alien commanders, her expression remaining professional despite the magnitude of what had just occurred. "The human fleets can begin rescue operations for your surviving forces. Estimated time to restore communication networks is 18 hours. The silence that followed was profound. The crystalline chamber's bioluminescent walls pulsed with muted colors as the alien commanders processed the reality of their situation. They had dismissed human intelligence, ignored human warnings, and excluded human forces from their grand strategy. The result had been a disaster that human forces had prevented while fighting a completely different battle. Fleet Commander Zelix was the first to speak, her serpentine form coiled tightly around her gravity anchor. "Commander Vasquez, your species saved the galaxy while we were chasing shadows." Elena's expression softened slightly. My species fought the war, while yours fought the plan. The Zephyrians spent centuries learning to defeat alien military thinking. They never learned to fight human adaptability. The new reality Admiral Korthak approached Elena, his massive form moving with uncharacteristic humility. Commander, the Galactic Defense Council owes humanity a profound debt. Your warnings were correct, your analysis was accurate, and your strategy was successful. Elena nodded acknowledgement, but her tone remained professional. The debt is noted, Admiral, but respect earned in crisis should have been given in council. The next time humanity offers tactical input, I suggest you listen before the galaxy starts burning. General Vox's optical sensors focused on Elena with newfound respect. What are your recommendations for preventing future Zephyrian psychological manipulation? Elena smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Include human perspectives. In strategic planning, we see patterns differently because we think differently. What seems unpredictable to species with centuries of military tradition is often obvious to newcomers who haven't learned to think inside the box. The tactical display showed the galaxy slowly returning to stability as human fleets coordinated rescue operations and secured critical infrastructure. The stars that had burned red with alien blood now pulsed with the steady light of human competence. Ambassador Zerath's crystalline form pulsed with slow, respectful light patterns. Commander Vasquez, the Ancient Order formally requests human participation in all future strategic planning sessions. Elena looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of species that had dismissed human capabilities just hours earlier. The quiet voice they had ignored had become the commanding presence that had saved them all. Request acknowledged, Elena replied with quiet authority. But understand this. Next time you face an enemy that spent centuries learning to defeat, you might want to ask the newcomers how they'd approach the problem. Sometimes the best strategy is the one your enemy never learned to counter. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about the price of arrogance, and Elena Vasquez had ensured they would never forget it.